Welcome back to Pacific Stories in America. This is our segment for Pacific Islander movie reviews. And we are your co-hosts. I'm Ruby, and I'm a contracts consultant for FAINGATA'A Consulting LLC, and a host and co-host for a variety of podcasts. And I'm joined by my big sister, Nita. Nita's going to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Nita, and just want to say thank you for having me here at Pacific Stories in America. A little brief info about myself. I'm co-owner of Continental Appliance. We're a family-owned repair company here in San Francisco. We repair appliances such as washers, dryers, stoves, gas ranges, range hoods, refrigerators, and dishwashers. And so I'm excited to be here and to be able to talk about this wonderful movie that we saw for Pacific Stories in America.
Yay! Exactly. And so what we decided to review is Brutal Lives. So Brutal Lives, you've probably seen it on YouTube, and we're going to talk about season 1, not season 2. We're going to first tackle season 1 in this review. And a disclaimer, this is a spoiler alert. This movie review includes spoilers and plot details. If you have not watched Brutal Lives Season 1 and do not want to hear spoilers, then please return to our video after you watch. For the rest of you, please enjoy our talanoa. So I'm going to start with the summary before we dive into our back and forth.
Wonderful.
So the summary for Brutal Lives Season 1, when we had watched it, we actually watched this, probably about a year or two ago, maybe even longer. And this is before we knew of a season 2. Brutal Lives Season 1 is a short series about a family who needs healing when their patriarch, a former boxer, returns home for the death of his father, the children's grandfather. The children are grown and a bit bitter. They're a bit bitter when they see their dad return because much time has passed, and they felt that he abandoned them during their time of need as young ones. Nevertheless, this story weaves together folklore, spirituality, and a family breakdown. Through flashbacks, we see that the boxer father was plagued with visions of a haunting spirit who frightened and sabotaged him often. There seemed to be a connection with the necklace he wore in his last fight before being disgraced, and the necklace his daughter wore when she became a boxer. Close to the end of the story in Season 1, his boxer daughter is haunted by the same spirit which haunted the boxer father. Whatever demon or demons he could not conquer followed the next generation, similar to the Christian concept of generational curses. Luckily, the boxer father figures out how to break this curse, or so we thought, when he takes the necklace from his daughter and offers it to the spirit. It seemed, at least for Season 1, that all had been made right in their family. By the end of the season, the spirit of the grandfather joins the family for a cool breeze lunch in which they sing a Tongan lullaby, and the grandfather's spirit dances while the next generation celebrate. So Nita, let's start with your questions. You have some great questions for our movie review and talanoa.
Oh, thank you. So I wrote 3 questions down. And my first question is, in the flashback, the boxer dad was wearing the necklace when he lost the fight. Was it because of the spirit? And my response to that was that I believe he lost the fight because of the spirit. And the boxer dad, which his name is Sione, his father should have known about the necklace, but maybe because as time goes on, maybe they felt that it was more a folk tale and not something to be taken seriously. And maybe the grandfather didn't see the necklace if he didn't go to the fight. I felt that it was kind of teetering on the old ways, the old gods, and Christianity. And maybe the family never connected the bad luck in the past, in the present, with Sione losing the fight to the necklace. That's what I was what I got for the first question, which was did he lose the fight because of the necklace?
Yeah.
What do you think about
your question?
about my first question?
That's a good one. I wrote, that's a good question. It seemed that that's a good question. It seemed that the necklace was not good luck to the daughter either. Mm-hmm. So you might be right that the necklace was bad luck, or that the haunting spirit was haunting him in order to take the necklace, which is maybe why the spirit was haunting the daughter during her fight. Because it was a strange connection. Perhaps they needed to develop that more, but it wasn't evident to you and I. Yeah. So my answer was, it was food for thought, your question, but I couldn't answer it fully because I didn't have enough information from the story. But it was interesting how that unraveled, where it's like, okay, we see this necklace when the father's plagued, but then now the daughter's plagued, and she just so happens to be wearing the necklace. What did the spirit want with that necklace and want with this family? Interestingly enough, you get a little more answers in season 2. We're just not going to unpack season 2 for you guys, but just thought to mention, if you watch season 2, they answer a little bit of some of the questions that we have here, but sticking in the season 1 universe, it was inconclusive.
Yeah, I felt that way too. So in season 1, I want to say in between episode 2 and 3, there's a scene where the dad, after he comes home, okay, so spoiler alert, the dad comes home and then he reunites with his family, but then there's a rejection. He has 3 children, and the rejection's coming from 2 of the children, the 2 older children. And so he runs off. The dad runs away, and he's at a bus stop. And so at the bus stop, something happens and to him. And so my question is who is the man that hits the dad? Is it the spirit of the old man, or is it a guardian of the old man? And the reason why I ask that is because they do show the old man, but then they also show a young man. So I got confused because I was thinking, is he reminiscing? Is he thinking of the man that he lost his fight to? But then I wrote in response to that I felt that thinking more about it, I was thinking, oh, maybe the young man was the old man. He was just able to kind of change his appearance. Because it had to be the old man, the spirit that's haunting the father. He was able to change into this young spirit, because later on you never see the young man again. It's not like with the old man. But I for me, that's what I felt. I felt that the old man came as the man who, I thought. Then I started thinking maybe the old man came as the man who fought him to remind him about the fight that he lost, but also to make the connection between the fight and the necklace. And so that's my response. I thought the young man, because when he's sitting at the bus stop and you see that scene, he physically gets hurt, because you'll see him. And you'll think that, oh, maybe there's somebody coming towards him. And then after he gets hit, then they show him sitting at the bus stop, and he's by himself. And he's holding his, face because he got hit. So then that made me think, oh, maybe it's the old man came as a young man. But it's just kind of odd. And so...
It is odd, but you might be right. I think you might be right because... obviously these are, when he's interacting with this haunting spirit, it's a spiritual element, and it wouldn't be unheard of for a spirit to take on multiple, to shapeshift into multiple, whether an old man and a young man. It wouldn't be, I mean, if we're already exploring the spiritual realm in this storytelling, then I think it is believable that the young man and the old man could be two aspects of the same spirit. And so what I wrote in response was, I was trying to remember which scene it was, and thank you for reminding the audience which scene that was, because it wasn't quite clear. It did seem open for interpretation, and like you, it could be, like you had said, it could be two aspects of the same spirit. But then in the alternative, I said it could be two different spirits, but maybe working for the same group of spirits or demons. I wasn't sure if it was demonic or ancestral, because in our culture, you know, pre-colonialism, in our culture, the spirits sometimes could be ancestral, absent of malice. Like it could be an ancestor spirit without there being like a demonic presence. But then when we became Christianized, all of that became demonic, and so I only mentioned that just kind of to distinguish that for the audience, that yeah, but if you could see my fingers, I'm doing the I see you, like that we're speaking the same language. I am fully aware that it could either be a demonic or some type of alternative spirit, at least in the storytelling. And without discussing season 2, it seems like those spirits may have been related to a different family altogether, or maybe those spirits were part of some negative force that was haunting the boxer and his family. Your question kind of gave birth to more questions for me. It was hard to pinpoint the answers in the season 1 universe in the way they had told the story, but it wasn't, if you hear any confusion in my voice, it's not due to it being a bad story. It's actually a really lovely story, and I really urge viewers/listeners to check out Brutal Lives. It's available. I think I had created a playlist on this YouTube channel if you want to cleanly watch it back to back to back, the episodes, or you can go straight to Coconet.tv. I believe they're the producers, and it's either on their YouTube channel or on their website where you can watch it. It's just that if you watch it on the YouTube channel away from our YouTube channel, the episodes may not be in order, but they've already been cataloged in order, at least for season 1, on our channel, Pacific Stories in America. And so, anyways, if you hear confusion in this question, it's more us just wondering what the author or the screenwriter, where they were going with that. Who was the person who hit the father at that bus stop? And so it's more out of interest. It's not really a confusing story. It's more like, I'll go into it on my question, but it's the complexity of the story does not take away from how beautiful and interesting the story is. It is a short series, but they jam-pack. You could really feel like the presence of our Tongan culture in this story. With the use of language, you can hear our native Tongan language in it. And then they also mix it with English, and they use subtitles, I believe, for the Tongan, when Tongan is being spoken. So anyone can watch this story. And also, despite there being kind of unclear moments in the story, at least for season 1, it doesn't take away from it. It is riveting. It's like, what's happening to this boxer? Oh, his daughter's a boxer too, and why is the spirit plaguing them? And you kind of fall in love and care about the family and really hope the best for them by the time the story ends. So
and my last question, my third question, we'll go into that, is why did the spirit go after the 2 kids, which is Domasi, which is the youngest, and Lupe, who happens to be the boxer? And why did the spirit not go after the 3rd child? I was kind of curious as to that. Why the spirit only went after 2 of the children and not after all 3? But I think then as the more I thought about it, then I was thinking, well, I can understand why the spirit went after the daughter, and because of for obvious reasons. She's a father. I mean, a fighter. I'm sorry, she's a fighter like her dad, and she's wearing the necklace. Maybe also another reason is she has so much anger and resentment towards her father. That's why it went after her, because the spirit knew it would be hard to persuade her to give up that necklace. But then also when in the flashbacks that the father has, the fighter father has, which his name is Sione, you could tell he had a lot of anger. Hence why I believe he left, when he took off, he separated from the wife or divorced the wife. And, but then you can tell he was a very angry man as well. And as to the youngest, what, and I didn't understand why did the spirit go after the youngest son.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe because, maybe he seems to have, like, they call it a third eye. In other cultures, they call it a third eye. There's some people that have that special gift to be able to see spirits, to see things from the spirit world. I've worked with people that used to be able to, that have that ability to have a third eye. And I'd be like, the first thing I'd be like is like, oh no, keep that away. I don't want to see the third eye. I don't want to know about it, because they might meet you and say, oh, yeah, so-and-so wants to... they've had other movies like that. I think there was the movie with... it was another movie. It was by M. Night Shyamalan, and the young boy said, I see dead spirits, or dead people. So that boy was able to have a third eye. And I think, maybe that's why it went after... in the movie after the youngest son, because he had that third eye. Because as the movie progresses, you see that the youngest son also has the same dreams as the father. The other two don't. They don't have any of those dreams. And so I think maybe that's why they didn't go after the oldest one, maybe because he's more rational, more thinking as an adult. I think, maybe as a child, maybe because but all of them are grown adults. So it could be, Sione, the fighter father, had to go away for, I don't know how long. It looks like he went away for years. And when he came back, of course, when the children see him, the two oldest are jumping and yelling at him, why are you here? Why are you here? And the youngest son is saying, hey, Dad, like he still has a soft spot for his father. And we don't know if him coming back kind of speeds up the third eye for that young son. So, that. What do you think about that, Ruby, about that question?
No, I loved what you said, because I'm in agreement with the way you described the younger siblings, because I thought, like, oh, I wouldn't have caught that prior to you asking. And it kind of goes back into, like, I don't know, because we're speculating at this point. The scriptwriter or the author doesn't go into detail of why certain children and not the other child. And but if you care about the family, you do kind of think, oh, that's interesting. It didn't plague the oldest. And so what I wrote was, yes, that's a good question. Was wondering if the younger kids, Lupe and Tomasi, were vulnerable. Like, the things you were describing about the younger ones, to me, sounded like vulnerabilities, like the daughter walking into the shoes of her father, and the son having what we perceive as psychic powers. It's, like for a lot of the indigenous cultures, we just say like a knowing. But so I was wondering if they happen to be more vulnerable than the oldest, for, like the reason you had mentioned. Perhaps the oldest could be more logical, or just maybe less in touch, and as I was saying, maybe less vulnerable. And you even brought up the third eye element, which is, it's kind of interesting because it's a touchy topic for us to speak about coming from a Christian family, because especially for Tongans who have become Christianized, and this is a Tongan story, and there's a lot of ancestral ways that we discard, like acknowledging a third eye, and acknowledging spiritual warfare. And I think especially for Methodists, the family is Methodist in this story, and we come from a Methodist background, although now we're Pentecostal. But our mom, when she grew up in Tonga, was raised Methodist, as was her siblings, and we lightly experienced the Methodist teachings, which was not very spiritual. It was, we didn't discuss spiritual warfare. It was more about living a good life, a good Christian life on this plane. And the only spirituality you would experience is when you pass on and go to heaven. But as Pentecostals, we are familiar with spiritual warfare, and it definitely felt like spiritual warfare that the kids were participating even. And I was saying, and you had touched upon it, that maybe the daughter was vulnerable because she became a boxer who was walking in the same shoes as her dad. The other child, the youngest one, seemed to have more of a psychic awakening. And perhaps that's why they were selected as opposed to, or vulnerable as opposed to the oldest child. But that was a good question.
Oh, thank you.
And so next question is, was this a literal storytelling in your opinion? Because again, we're just speculating because there's a lot of things unsaid in the story. Was this a literal storytelling? Is this about a family dealing with actual spiritual warfare, or was this a metaphor for dealing with trauma? Without looking at season 2.
Without looking at season 2, is it okay if I give my response? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I think this was like a literal storytelling. And I think because sometimes we go through life not realizing that there's a cycle. It could be a cycle of violence, abuse. And in this case, it was a cycle of bad luck. And I wrote, I felt that sometimes we don't know that the cycle started so long ago, generations ago. And sometimes our people, even though we go to church and we're religious, yes, but if we don't acknowledge the cycle and put a stop to it, it just continues to go to the next generation and the next generation. I know we've touched on that topic of, there's a cycle of certain things. It could be a violence or cycle of abuse. And sometimes we don't realize, hey, what's been going on? Why does it seem like everybody in that family has gone through something like that? And it's I think until you stop and you think about it, I think that's then that's it'll continue. So for me, for literal storytelling, I think that there's with them getting the dreams, and the younger son is also getting the dreams. They're starting to come to acknowledge it, and they're telling their story to it's as you watch the movie, you do, like you said, you do care for the family, and you hoping that they find some way to break that chain. That's, for me, that's what I got from the definition of literal storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I without looking at season 2, I wondered if season 1 was a bad fever dream of the boxer father, and by the end of the season we see their real life with their grandfather's spirit rejoicing. That was just kind of a possibility. Mm-hmm. And I am not sure the intention of the script writer, but that was one interpretation before I saw season 2. On the other hand, this could be, as you said, a literal storytelling where we are expected to believe all the scenes as happening in their real world, because the last scene also has spiritual elements, which is uniform with the story being a mix of life and spirit for the family. So in the end, yeah, I agreed that the scriptwriter meant this as a literal storytelling. Next question. Was the story influenced by Hawaiian and Maori cultures? What are your thoughts?
Oh yes, I believe it's greatly influenced by the I wrote that I believe the story is influenced by the Tongan community because you hear the Tongan language, but then in actuality you can apply it to all of the islands in the South Pacific because we are very before the colonizers came and brought Christianity, we had our own gods. Hawaii is very well known as well as Samoa and Tonga. They have their own native gods. So I think you were asking if it's. I think
if it was influenced by Hawaiian and Maori cultures.
I think you can apply it to all the nationalities in the South Pacific. I mean, they used the Tongan language, but they could have easily used any other language as well in the story if they were to do that. But I could see, like I said, they used the Tongan language, but I could see them use any other language if they were to make the movie in the Maori language, the Samoan language, the Tahitian or Tokelauan, so I could see it in any. I can apply it to any of the different islands.
Oh, I like that you pointed that out. I wrote, what kind of stood out to me was the normalization of a medicine woman or a witch doctor in season 1. And keep in mind that the family is conservative Methodist. Kind of that Methodist is conservative. I asked because of my understanding of how Christianized the Tongan people have become and wondered how a medicine woman could be sought after by this Methodist family when Tongan Methodists tend to stay away from the occult and medicine persons, witch doctors. I mentioned Hawaiian and Maori influences because their movies and shows seem to be more open-minded and embrace non-Christian methods. Some would say more traditional ancestral ways. So that's why I thought, and the story takes place in New Zealand. I thought, I wonder if the scriptwriter was influenced by, like for example, with Hawaiians, my understanding is they have, ancestors that are associated with certain animals. And Maori, I don't know about their ancestor practices, but I know them to be also more open-minded than our Tongan community, which is more Christianized and therefore more conservative and closed off. So that was just kind of a curiosity. And the next question or last question was the lullaby a familiar Tongan song? Was that a familiar Tongan song to you?
I wrote, my response to that was that I remember a portion of that lullaby, but in the movie they broke out and danced. I don't remember that part of the lullaby when I would hear Mom sing it to.
So was that the lullaby that Mom used to sing to us, or did it remind you of the lullaby?
It reminded me of the lullaby that Mom used to sing because she would, towards the end part of it, she would make up it would be like the lullaby would be, sleep, sleep, baby. I need to get some rest. Time for you to sleep. You cry too much, and I've been busy all day. And it would sound funny because she would be singing in Tongan.
Well, it would sound comforting because she's singing in Tongan loudly. She's trying to out-sing our crying. Yes. Whoever is the sick, crying child in her arms, she's trying to out-sing you. So it feels comforting when speaking as someone who's often sickly. It felt comforting where it's like, oh, have a great mom. She must be singing sweet heavenly words to comfort me during my time of need. And then as I became more conscious and recognized more Tongan words, then I was like, oh my goodness, you're trashing me. You want to throw me in the trash?
Yeah.
She would fit in all these like hilarious lines to keep herself awake as she's trying to put us to sleep.
Yeah, I felt that, I thought it was, I think what happens was that, I wrote that, what did I write? I wrote, maybe this family, they started off with that, and then, in the Tongan word, they say you get mafana, you get kind of like excited, so maybe that's why,
mafana means excited?
It's like mafana means get warm, you become warm, or, so I didn't want to say they got hot. Mafana is like hot, but like they got hot in the spirit or hot in the body. The family.
It's a really beautiful scene. That end of we're talking about the last video,
the very last reel,
season 1. It's so beautiful because it feels spontaneous that they should start singing a lullaby, and the lullaby is actually played throughout all the video. You don't really hear it well until the end of the season 1. And they break out into songs spontaneously, kind of like the way a family, you remember a song from childhood. They all sing in harmony, and then they get excited, as you said, because they break out into dance.
Yeah, and I think they also break out into dance, maybe because of the breaking of that cycle. It seems like,
yes.
Now we got this family curse off of us. Now it's clear skies from here on. Yeah, celebration.
Celebratory. The lullaby and the breaking out into song and the joyousness and the celebration of their curse being broken, at least for season 1, it felt in harmony. It felt like the family was celebrating the release of the curse.
Yes.
Or so they thought. Sorry to keep being cryptic to the audience, because I don't want to give you a false sense of security, and then you see season 2 and you're like, dang it, we thought that we'd hate to mislead you. So there's more to their story by season 2, but in season 1, if you only see season 1, that's what it felt like, that last video, and it's very tear-jerking.
Yeah, because you could feel the pain of the father being estranged from his family. You can understand the children, being upset with their father. The whole dynamics start to shift when the father comes back into the picture, especially because you see the mother is now with someone new, and you can only imagine the just the array of emotions going through the children. It's a beautiful story. I'm glad that they made a season 2, because they do dive into more of like the backdrop of the story. I do recommend, I hope that a lot of the listeners, it's a great movie to watch with family. It's a great movie to watch with children. It's not like graphic or gory, or it's not like nobody turns into a zombie.
Right.
Yeah, but they do. It does make you stop and think. Oh yeah, our people are, we may not have always been in Christianity, but our people are very spiritual. We've always been one with the earth, and we've always respected the different elements of nature. So watching the movie, it was just like, wait, okay, and as we were talking about, you mentioned about you mentioned about the witch doctor. I just wanted to say something about that. It's not uncommon. I remember hearing stories of people drinking special drinks that would heal them, or people going back to the islands and I think people would.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think people would do that because Western medicine wasn't able to do anything more, which is in conflict with our Christian beliefs.
Oh, I can't wait to find out which family and friends were doing that off recording.
Yeah, I remember people would say, oh, we're going to go go to the islands, or they would come back with these, of course, when you could always tell when somebody came back from the islands because you would smell something in the refrigerator. It'd be like, like the sea cucumber. They used to bring it, and
was that medicinal?
No, it wasn't
okay.
medicinal, but they would eat it. I think in Samoan they call it sea, and Tongan they call it loli, loli or how do you call truck?
Is it loli or loli? But truck, but yeah.
Yeah. So
and why is it called? Is truck the translation?
Truck. We called it truck because loli is truck in Tongan.
Yeah.
But then I don't know where we got I don't know how we came up with it, but I know in Samoan they call it sea, which is the sea cucumber, and I've seen it like on TV. But to smell it, because it's really very irony. It smells like and it's so pungent.
Did you never taste it?
Yeah, and you can't break it down. It doesn't break down. You're chewing. I used to compare it to like
the everlasting
gobstopper, because they used to say in Charlie Chocolate Factory, they used to say, "Oh, you can chew it and chew it and chew it, and never breaks down."
Yeah.
And the sea cucumber never broke down, but they would eat it. But then they used to bring it, and it would be in the refrigerator, in a closed bottle, sealed. But then you would smell it as soon as you came. It's like, oh, who came from the islands? Who brought this stuff? And Mom and Dad and Uncle Gali would be eating it, and I'd be like, "Can I try some lolly?" And then they're like, "You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like it." And I would just get a little piece, and you never broke it down. Eventually you had to swallow it.
Yeah, I could tell I was not gonna like it just by the smell. I didn't need to further investigate.
No, me, I was like, I want to try it.
Maybe it gets a bad rap. Maybe it tastes better than it smells. Nope.
It smells just as bad as it tastes.
Oh, wow.
But it would. I mean, they had one show. Where a Balangi went and he tried it, and he said it looks like snot when you're pulling it apart, and I was just like, yeah.
When you're pulling the meat from the other meat, or from the skin from the meat? Or?
I think the skin from the meat, because it's
like
a sea
slimy.
Slug. It's like a sea slug or a sea snail, and so of course it's slimy and things like that. But I mean,
it's funny because I like unagi. I think unagi is like an eel.
Oh, that's really good. I like
eel.
I like the eel.
But I guess I'm more westernized, where I need you to be adding a lot of seasoning and spices until it all tastes like chicken.
Yes. I mean, we used to joke around like saying, if it's got a good marinade, a good barbecue sauce, I'll eat it. So
right.
If it comes in its natural form and I see the eyes still looking at me, no, I have questions. Pass.
Right.
I'm gonna pass. So I think with every culture, but I did remember that people would say that they would come back and they'd bring back these drinks, and people would drink it, and it'd be like,
that's a good reminder, because I know of, and I'm speaking as someone more removed, because we left the Tongan church decades ago to go to our American church, which is Pentecostal. And so my view of Tongan culture is kind of from a distance. And so when I think about them, I actually only remember the conservative aspects, the post-Christianized aspects. And then you reminded me that a lot of us retain our connection to our old ways, which also include traditional medicines, foods, and even seeing, a quote-unquote medicine man or woman in our community. So it is a good reminder for that, and I'm sure some listeners or viewers can relate, especially if you're more active in the Tongan community. So I was thinking of the question as well about, was the lullaby a familiar Tongan song? It was a reoccurring theme through the episodes, and a beautiful dance by the deceased father or grandpa. I did not recognize the song itself, but the melody was familiar. As Nita discussed, it reminded me or us of when we were children and Mom would troll us in her Tongan lullabies. She would troll us in her Tongan lullabies. singing about how much we were over-crying and we should go back to sleep, and she masked her criticisms by singing a sweet melody and smiling. Meanwhile, she was laughing at us. While that's not the same as the one in the movie, that's what it reminded me of. I'd also like to add that the first season is a tearjerker, and what a pleasure it was to see the family receive healing, even if it only scratched the surface, and the blessing of seeing their elder, the grandpa's spirit, dance to the voices of his children and grandchildren. The first season is a complete pleasure to watch, and after the first time you see it, then you too will be haunted, not by the spirit, but by the trauma and need for healing that most families seek. At the end of the day, we all want peace at home. Nita, any parting words, final thoughts for season 1?
No, I just encourage all our listeners, if you get a chance to watch the movie, it's a really great movie. It's and it's nice to see a movie about our people, made by our people, and talking about things that I'm sure we go through, and as we live here in the mainland, whether it's here in America or Australia or any of the other big mainlands, you'll find a connection with this family, with what they go through, and the different things that get kind of touched in the movie. So it's a great movie to watch. I truly recommend to watch it.
Yeah. If you like our Talanoa or Talanoa, please check out more videos on this channel, Pacific Stories in America. Share, like, and subscribe. Also check out Nita and My Family podcast, Polly's in the Bay Area. Go to Spotify and type in Polly's in the Bay Area to hear about our Polynesian family growing up in the Bay Area, being first-gen American, and community issues we need more explored. Take care and we'll talk soon.